Views expressed on this program are not the views of the platform or the presenter.
All right, welcome to another exciting episode of the Political Podcast. My name is Yowela Chomba, of course, your host, and today we have Honorable Member of Parliament for Lukasha constituency in Northern Province, Mr. George Chisanga, with us, who's also a former Law Association of Zambia president. So at least you may have an idea of where we'll be going with our discussion this morning. So many things happening. Emmanuel Mwamba's petition to SADC, the Constitutional Court dismissing the petition by CSOs to halt the review process. Yesterday, the president addressed the nation, quite a number of issues that he brought out. So we have the honorable member with us so that we can just touch on those. But of course, even from his own side, his constituency, how it's doing, it's very important for us to give us for him to give us an update on that, as well as his plan for the upcoming general elections. Honorable member, welcome to the Political Podcast.
Mr. Chomba, thank you very much for the opportunity to give me to sit with you at Power FM and speak to our people through your medium.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and because this is my inaugural appearance on your station, just allow me to pay a glowing tribute to your team.
Yeah.
I have seen Power FM grow.
Yeah.
This is a visionary project, and it can only be driven by somebody who's got a very, very big vision.
Yeah.
I think Kenny Tonga is a respected media personality, and it is only fair that we pay him glowing tribute and thank him for what he has done to make sure that the airwaves have some institution like Power FM that is very objective, very independent, but also very entertaining.
No, thank you very
much for that.
No, thank you very much. We'll pass on that message to our chairman, and you'll be very happy to hear that. And having said that, just for those that don't know, we are live right now on Beats TV channel 92 on Topstar, which is countrywide. We are also live on FM, our sister station on the Copper Belt. So the whole of Copper Belt is tuned in. Power FM Lusaka 91.3, Power FM Kabwe 87.9, and Power FM Livingston 102.4. And of course, during the show, we'll open phone lines to give a chance to you listeners and viewers to pose questions or send contributions for the Honorable Member of Parliament that we have with us today. And of course, we are live on Facebook. For those who are in the digital world, they're following us live on Facebook on our Power FM Lusaka platform. Honorable Member, let's get started with our chat. And I'll simply just want to maybe start at a very, very easy level.
That's right.
Talk about a place where you have a lot of passion for.
That's right.
Your constituency. How are things up there in Lukasha, and so far, how has it been? What's your expectation going towards elections?
Grateful, thank you. Lukasha, the things in Lukasha are just as challenging as they are everywhere else, but I think even more, because Lukasha constituency, as I've mentioned in several media opportunities that have been given, is largely an agrarian community. We are the ones that produce farm produce in Kasama. We are basically the rural part of Kasama district. The majority of our people that are in Lukasha constituency are peasant farmers, and therefore they are dependent on the Phiri program and on the program for government that provide agriculture, incentives and other things. Is very, very important. But unfortunately, it has now become an experience everywhere else. It appears that our farmers are going to continue facing the challenges because of the poor performance of the Phiri program. You've heard of these stories of ukula kana imbuto, mameda, and fertilizer mameda. It is actually something that has affected Lukasha very negatively. But even with those kinds of challenges, I see our farmers very, very passionate about what they're doing. We still continue to produce. The current challenges they're having now is basically being paid for the produce they sold for FRA after the farming season of last year. Unfortunately, the misfortune we have again is with everybody else that our peasant farmers haven't been paid. As late as this morning, I was getting phone calls from Kasama, people trying to find out how I can help them to try and get paid. There's been an announcement by government that they've released the money after a long time to pay off the farmers who supplied maize to FRA. I hope that this is a true position, and I hope that our people can be given the money that they require, because if you notice, it's already rainy season. People are supposed to be back in their fields farming. Already there's been challenges of fertilizer shortages as well. So they have to supplement from what Phiri provides for them. They have to go back to the market and buy some additional bags. So this is what is challenging in Lukasha. Otherwise, beyond it all, we've tried as much as possible, to improve the lives of people in Lukasha constituency. CDF has performed quite well. even when it's a drop in the ocean in terms of how much money they put in the communities, using CDF. But even that little amount of money, we've properly managed it. I have always excited to announce that, Lukasha constituency, even after, an exercise that was carried out by some credible NGOs, the Zambia Center for Theoretical Reflection, and Caritas International, they've established that we have a very good team in Lukasha constituency when it comes to implementing CDF projects, and that we actually ranked number 3 in last year in performance. And this is with a lot of challenges, a lot of challenges of money is not being released in time, a lot of challenges of political interference, a lot of challenges of, our civil servants or our technocrats being, interfered with in terms of operation. But we still rank number 3. And if you went to Lukasha and saw what we've been able to put down using CDF, you would actually say, okay, this is a working team that is there. Beyond CDF, we've partnered with a number of institutions such as the Zambia Scholarship International and Solomon Foundation to put up a number of school infrastructures within Lukasha constituency. And also the initiative of myself as Member of Parliament, we've also constructed about 6 classroom blocks, just using legit resources we've got in partnering with the communities themselves. Lukasha is quite a big constituency. It's one of the biggest, it's the 3rd biggest constituency in the country. Really? So there are places that reaching those places is very, very difficult, but we've been very, very passionate about it, and we've made sure that even those areas that the government sometimes has not been able to reach out to, we've managed to go and plant some schools.
So having said that, when we look at some of the amendments in the constitutional process where they are looking at delimitation, especially in terms of CDF, implementation.
Yes.
Is Lukasha among those that is earmarked for, if it goes through, is it among those earmarked for delimitation? That they cut it in maybe 4 pieces?
You see, the UPND is going about amending this constitution like people in a casino, like people who owns a casino, and as tampered with the machines or vending machines or even the dice itself. They bring to the surface the proposed amendment to the constitution using Bill 7, but they're keeping very close to their chest what is actually in the delimitation report is. What Zambians had expected is that if they were credible, if they were genuine about amending the constitution, they should have given us both the draft and the delimitation report at the same time, so that people can know which constituencies are going to be delimited. What you have now heard is that people are very angry with the UPND government because even that report is not available. But the suggestion is that the majority of the constituencies that are going to be delimited are those that belong to, areas which, for lack of a better term, are called strongholds of the party that is in power. The whole initiative of this constitutional amendment is, for me, shrouded in controversy, but it's also an ill-conceived, designed project that is intended to create, an inbuilt majority for the UPND for all the elections we're going to have from 2026 going forward. I've actually made this point very strongly elsewhere, and that's why I've told Zambians to be wary about how the UPND is going about proposing this amendment. But speaking about delimitation, you actually don't need to amend the constitution to delimitate constituencies. A delimitation project can be done away from amending the constituency, because delimitation is actually provided for in the constituency, in the constitution itself. Every 10 years, you must adjust constituencies depending on the growth of the population and depending on the need for proper representation of the people. And even this idea of trying to marry delimitation to CDF is actually a farce. CDF has absolutely nothing to do with delimitation. It has nothing to do with the increased number of constituencies. These people are just using this as a setting point to hoodwink Zambians to think that they mean well for them. This evil agenda should not be supported by anybody. I must insist on that position.
Just yesterday, the Constitutional Court dismissed the application by CSOs to halt the process. What's your take on it?
First, there must be clarification. What has not happened is not the dismissal. The CSOs have challenged the appointment of the technical committee, arguing that it's unconstitutional. Now, when you make an application of such a nature to court, you also apply for what is called an interim measure. An interim measure is basically saying, look, while we are determining whether the appointment of the technical committee is constitutional or not, we would like the technical committee to stop operating. Okay, so they wanted to collapse the work of the interim committee, of the technical committee, with an interim relief, to the extent that in the event the court finds that indeed the appointment of the technical committee was unconstitutional, then it means they would not have done all this work that they have done when they actually are an unconstitutional body. But the court reserves what is called a discretion under jurisdiction to determine whether they should grant you that interim measure or not grant you interim measure. And that's why you see that that ruling was actually made by a single judge of the High Court, of the Constitutional Court, the panel as Constitutional Court, the minimum number that they sit is 3. And depending on the gravity of the case, they can sit in another uneven number. So when you hear a ruling coming from one single judge, it doesn't mean that there's finality with that case. So what is remained in the Constitutional Court is a determination whether the appointment of this technical committee was actually constitutional or not. But the court didn't find it prudent to collapse the work of the technical committee while that matter is being determined. It now remains to be seen what will be the fate of the work that the technical committee has been doing so far in the event that the court finds that the appointment was unconstitutional.
Yeah, so in your view, and asking you as a legal expert, why then would you allow the technical committee to go on up to the end when we don't even have a finality with the Constitutional Court?
Well, because the work was, the Constitutional Court was appointed for a specific period. And I think this is why the court, in its reasoning, felt like we can't collapse this because it was set by the terms of reference. They're going to sit for this period. So the thinking was to let them continue and finish their work. Under the law, you can determine the constitutionality or otherwise of an institution without disrupting its operation. The only thing you have to come and contend with is what will be the effect in the event that the court finds that actually this appointment was unconstitutional. And people have voiced already this concern that this institution is unconstitutional because it didn't comply with the Constitution in its appointment. The President didn't comply with the Constitution in appointing this technical committee.
And henceforth the CSO's action was justified. And added to that, there's a planned protest by the OSS Forum for this Friday. Even as much as we've heard that they might sit down with the President to dialogue. In your view, are all these actions important for this whole process, whether to be halted or for the government to heed the call of the people?
Okay, I will carpet myself in discussing this issue because as I was coming, I was let into some information that has become available publicly. I haven't verified it yet. That the Oasis Forum has decided to not cancel but suspend the protest. In place of it, they've decided we're going to have a national prayer on the Constitution. And this suspension, allegedly, as we're informed, has been made necessary because they want to give room for negotiation with the President. But to speak about the right to protest, and this is why people are concerned with the voices coming out of the President yesterday when he was dating the nation. The right to protest is actually a right that is recognized by the Constitution. As long as you comply with the law, you are allowed to protest. The misfortune that we had yesterday, which really is a very, very bad misfortune, I think quite one of the worst misfortunes that we've had under the hands of the UPND government, is where we had the President begin to almost threaten citizens, and saying that those of you who are going to choose to do toy with other people's children, don't come and blame us when you're going to find more powerful people on the streets, who are going to handle you violently. The President was instigating violence, and he was doing it at the backdrop of his own cadres having threatened people already on social media platforms, saying, look, since you don't want to listen to what the President is saying, we'll meet you on the field. Now, we have a scenario here. We have a scenario where, on the one hand, you've got people that have decided they're going to exercise their constitutional right, and they have complied with the law. They have notified the police, and everything has been put in place on one side. And on the other side, you've got, for lack of a better term, thugs who have threatened that those people who are going to exercise their constitutional rights are going to meet with violence on the street. People are declaring an intention to go and commit serious crimes on the streets. And in between, you've got the Republican President who's seized the opportunity to speak to the nation about this very important issue that is taking place in the nation called Bill 7. Okay? And what does the President choose to do? He chooses to frighten the innocent citizens and tell them, if you are going to dare us, you should be ready to find, for lack of a better term, my thugs on the streets. Because these boys who are saying they're going to beat people, are going to demonstrate, are UPND people. We've seen Facebook postings of people warning the people who are going to demonstrate. And the President, when he seizes the opportunity to speak to the nation, he joins on the queue of threatening citizens and actually tells them that you'll be on your own. These people are going to beat you up. Now, mind you, the President commands, among other things, security in the nation. Among other things, the police report to him, the IG reports to him. He was indirectly telling the police that even you are so irrelevant to this process. Because even those boys who were threatening people on social media, they actually were saying, oh, mletu fire. we will help, since the police are not going to do their work, we will help the police to do their work.
Yeah.
So the president has created an environment that is so toxic, an environment that is so dangerous. And that's why yesterday when I was responding to a media briefing, I was saying I was pleading with the president to introspect, and I can only repeat that here. The president's statement is the most important statement ever made in a country at any given time. He is citizen number one. He is the one who carries the most honorary responsibility of ensuring that the country is managed according to the Constitution and according to the rule of law. When he makes a sweeping statement, even in jest like the one that he made, he sets into motion an unconstitutional process, an illegal process, which, if not properly managed, can descend into chaos. And I said to the president yesterday, and I can repeat here, I hope the president can introspect. We still have time before that demonstration, and now it's even been suspended. Yeah. I hope the president can utilize this time to introspect and reverse the decision he's made and send a stern warning to his members who have threatened citizens, who have threatened bishops, who have threatened CSOs. Yeah. Beauty Kateme now is even receiving death threats, as bad as it has become. The president is the only one who can make a determination or a declaration that can put a stop to this. There's a threatened degeneration, because we have chosen to ensure that people that are going to exercise their rights are going to be met with criminal conduct.
Indeed. Also, now that we've moved to the presser that we had yesterday from the president, of course, it touched on the economic development, some wins there, but I think a good part of it also touched on the issue of the amendment, the planned protest, but some of the tone that the president picked, which was centered on hatred, where he's saying that why are people fighting this process when they didn't fight any other processes going back in time? It's because they hate me. Do you feel that was a good statement to make? And most reactions are that we don't hate the president.
You know, you need to understand it in context. To start with, a president who's voted into with the sheer numbers of voters, the way the current president was voted into, cannot at any time claim to be hated. Because people that vote for you, first, they demonstrate respect for you. Second, they demonstrate sheer love for you. And thirdly, they demonstrate in you that you are going to, discharge your functions and meet their aspirations. Zambians changed from the Patriotic Front because they were dissatisfied with the PF. They felt the PF needed to be put on the bench and replaced by the president. The president started making these remarks very shortly when he got into office. And we raised these issues as a Patriotic Front, but people were still drunk with the fact that a new government has come into power. They actually called it a new dawn. The ears were deaf to what we were saying, that we think that the president is taking the country on a very dangerous trajectory. If you heard, there was one time when a journalist asked him a question at the airport when he came from somewhere, and the journalist's question was very innocent. But the answer the president gave to that journalist worried me and everybody else. He said, there's a certain section of our society who he called them hegemonists, who, according to him, are the only people who feel that they've got the right to be in leadership in this country. And he accused that certain group of people that he was mentioning to have been feeding off government since independence, and that now they were angry that a person who comes from a tribe that should not present a president has finally become a president. He made that statement. I froze when I heard it, because I told myself, this is not how a president must speak to his citizens. Because mind you, when you are a president, even those who didn't vote for you are your citizens. Even those who may have, for lack of a better term, shown you some amount of dislike, you are now responsible for everybody. And the statements that you make must be measured. People must know that the president is speaking when they hear you. That statement was very worrisome. But you see, nobody told the president that was wrong. I called on those who surround the president to begin to guide him on how he can speak when he's engaging the public. But repeatedly, the president has made this statement that certain people like him because of who he is, and he actually says he didn't choose to be born where he was born. Frankly speaking, nobody chooses to be born where you were born. Nobody, and that can't be made an issue, especially if you are the president. Okay? What is becoming very clear with our president is that he believes that he is right at every time, and that nobody should point out to him when we think that he has done something wrong. And quite frankly, even when he sits on the table and analyzes the reactions he has received to this nefarious agenda to pass Bill 7, he would have concluded in his own mind that people don't like this bill, even his own people. We have spoken to people in the UPND. Some of them are actually worried about the trend, the trajectory that we've taken. Now, when you point to a leader, or when you point a wrong that you think a leader has committed, that cannot and should never be interpreted as hatred by the president. And you see, this president came against the backdrop of the thinking of Zambians that we need to unify the ethnic groups that we have in this country, 72 of us. They voted for him. The major reason they voted for him was that he projected a view that he is going to unify the nation. Yeah. So when a statement like the one is made is actually made, and when in making that statement, he even draws in the church, because he said in that remark that the church has now turned to be an instrument. Has been an instrument of love. It's the same church that stood with him when he was fighting Bill 10, to the extent that even him as an individual, he came and dated the press to express his appreciation to the church, especially the Catholic bishops, for standing with him at the time that he was promulgating Bill 10. What has changed now? The whole nation has not changed. The only person who has changed is the president. And from yesterday's remarks, believe it or not, every Zambian now believes that this Bill 7 is not even an instrument of the UPND. It is not even an instrument of progressive forces within the nation to try and transform this country and make it better. No. Now Zambians are clearly aware that this Bill 7 is actually an instrument of the president as an individual.
So what are the repercussions if from what you're saying, if he does not introspect and maybe come back with a statement that then says contrary, to say, look, maybe I was misunderstood. What are the repercussions if there's no such process? Look, it remains as it is.
I did an analysis yesterday. From the statement that the president made yesterday, he has created a very toxic environment. We are now living at a time where, using, a certain language, we are now at a stage where it's like the whole population is drained in petrol or paraffin, and they're just waiting for somebody to flick that match. That is where we are. The only fireman who can stop this is the president, because he was the author of that statement. So that's why I'm making this plea. I'm very convinced, sir, that if the president does not retract the statement that he made yesterday, and if the president does not, direct his members, his youths, from the threat that they already made to harm people, people are going to also resolve and say, we're going to defend ourselves. And that is going to degenerate into chaos. And this is why I am saying, and I think I should this time thank the Oasis Forum for the step they've taken. And I don't think they've taken it out of the fear of the threats that the president issued yesterday. No. They have taken it because they love this nation. They have taken this step because they believe sincerely that even when you know that there's a very small room for dialogue, you should give dialogue an opportunity. And I think that this must be reciprocated to by State House, by the president, he himself, not even through Hamasako or anybody else, no, he himself coming to date the press and say, dear citizens, my brothers and sisters, I apologize. We made a mistake. That statement should not have come from my mouth at the time when the country needs to be united, even behind this controversial bill that we've got on the floor of the House.
Yeah, interesting. He did direct some attention to him being aware that there's some regrouping that's going on as a number one shushu, and then he's warning those that will face you head on. And the assertions are that this regrouping obviously is, towards the patriotic front.
Of course it is. I mean, whenever
your views on that?
Whenever I hear the president talking about they are now regrouping, even when you talk about we are going to start Mingalato, and when Mingalato does not work, we're going to go for their throats. That was a direct threat to the patriotic front, and thank God, from the time that he issued those threats, the Patriotic Front has remained united. We didn't succumb to the threat, and there have actually been actions that have been taken that show that that threat is being implemented. Yeah. But I have responded to that several times. I have said, whoever wants to threaten the Patriotic Front thinking that they're going to succumb to the threats is making a mistake. because the Patriotic Front has transcended. You know, the Patriotic Front is no longer a political party that Michael Sata set up.
Yeah.
It's no longer the political party that Edgar Lungu came as superintendent for the 7 years that he was president. The Patriotic Front is actually in everybody's bedroom.
Yeah.
The Patriotic Front is actually in everybody's house. The Patriotic Front is a living organism that had responded to the aspirations of the Zambian people for 10 years. And then the very fact that Zambians have had an opportunity to compare what the Patriotic Front did for 10 years and compare what the UPND has done for 5 years, and they have actually written off the UPND, it tells you that you cannot quench the existence of Patriotic Front even by threats. But politics is what it is. I think that the president was politicking when he was making those statements. I have said before that there are times when the president must move away from politicking and provide leadership. Because see, for the longest time, what misses in a political equation is proper leadership. And only a president can direct a country. You know, Mr. Mwanawasa, I was very close to Mr. Mwanawasa.
Yeah.
In the first few months in government, in office, Mr. Mwanawasa had struggled because if people thought that he arrived in State House as a captured president, because people said, oh, he was waking up in the night and brought and put in State House, and he probably was playing on that plane, and it was very difficult for him to manage the affairs. I was that close to him because I knew Mr. Mwanawasa before he became president and the time he was president. But one time he just said, you know what, I need to provide leadership. I'm thinking these things are happening because we're not providing leadership. So one day he made a declaration on TV. He said, I have just read the Constitution. I have got so much responsibilities to make Zambia a peaceful nation under the Constitution. And in keeping with those responsibilities, I have today declared that I'm going to act as the president. If you want to work with me, it's either you're with me or you're not with me. If you're not with me, move on. Allow those who are with me to work with me. And he said, the first thing that I'm going to fight is corruption. And he declared the term zero tolerance on corruption. You saw what happened after that. Mwanawasa went fighting everybody on corruption. So he showed leadership. What is the problem that we have now in this country, and the people have been shying away from it, and this is why it is becoming a bigger problem, is this ethnic degeneration. We are now more divided than we have been before on ethnic lines. So anybody who's sitting in State House now must be able to demonstrate that is going to bring everybody on board, regardless of what ethnic origin you have. And if that is done by this current president, because, believe it or not, the unity that seems to be falling apart right now is going to be reinforced. The reason why people are even, fighting Bill 7 partly is because they think that maybe this is an instrument that the UPND wants to stamp permanent authority on the political platform, and that is contrary to the democracy credentials that this country has been enjoying, especially since 2016 when we passed a constitution that guides even how democracy must be performed.
I'll ask this question: is everything around the constitution amendment, which from what I've read also still points to Bill 7, which was deferred in Parliament, is everything in there bad, or are there some things that are good? And if they were, what would you propose would have been the best action for us to amend the Constitution to align to those good things?
I must say, without fear of recrimination, that I don't see anything good about Bill 7. There's no clause that I have looked at myself. Yes, there's no clause that I've seen in Bill 7. I want to merge Bill 7 to what we're going through right now. There's nothing I have seen in Bill 7 that is akin to making a proper constitution. First, from its formation itself, the way it was conceived, it was an elitist program to try and enact laws that do not respond to the aspirations of the people. And the story that they gave the nation was that, oh no, we just want to do minor amendments. According to them, they said, we just want to harvest low-hanging fruits. We just want to ensure that the non-controversial provisions of the Constitution are the ones we amend. I said the very moment I saw their program, before Bill 7, when they came to Parliament and rolled out the program, I said, there is no clause in the Constitution that can be deemed to be a low-hanging fruit or a non-controversial clause. Because in the Constitution, even the way it opens up, it says, we the people of Zambia. It raises a question immediately. Who are we? Are we talking about citizens? Are we talking about those who've got voters' cards? Are we talking about those who have got NRCs? Are we talking about, people that are alien, our colleagues who come from China, Lebanon, elsewhere? So even that itself, the opening of the constitution itself is controversial. West, when you get into the provisions to do with, elections, how to vote and how to resolve disputes, all those matters are extremely controversial. So nobody could have told Zambians that we found non-controversial clauses in the constitution which we want to amend. Some Zambians gave them latitude. Some Zambians felt, okay, maybe PF is being harsh. Let's see them. Let them bring the draft. When the draft was brought, even us who were saying this was a long process, we sounded lower in terms of anger from those who now came and saw what is contained in draft 7, in Bill 7. Then it became very clear that these guys are not thinking about Zambians at any given time. They're only thinking about how they're going to perpetuate themselves in power. There were proposals such things as, doing away with by-election when a member of parliament dies, such things as bringing in secretary to cabinet to have only 5 years experience. When you've got civil servants who've been serving in that bureaucracy for 25 years plus, and you want a cadre with only 5 years experience to come and control civil service. There are all these controversial issues that were there. Even delimitation itself, the very fact that they gave us a blank page on delimitation is what people became very discontented with what is going on. See, at that time, it became very clear it's not going to happen. In Parliament, we tried to fight it, we were pushed aside. Fortunately, Munia Zulu and Celestine Mkandela took the matter to court, and the Constitutional Court made a very elaborate judgment, which guided clearly how you could have gone about to come up with that Bill 7. They condemned Bill 7, and they said, halt the process. Okay, and start a process in this manner. They are guided on how, and pointed out the actual clauses in the Constitution that are supposed to be complied with in coming about with a bill that should amend that Constitution. The UPND were unrelenting. Even at that time, they went about with this program. Because in the House, instead of following, in fact, the timing is what was even controversial. I think somebody must have leaked information to the executive that the court before. Yes, exactly. So the court is sitting on a deferred bill, and even now as we are talking, I don't understand why. And this is, I think, these are the issues that are before the Constitutional Court. Nobody who has learned constitutional law, even at lower level, understands why we have a technical committee when we have Bill 7 on the floor of the House. It's a contradistinction. They should have first withdrawn completely, halted the process like they were guided, halt it, and then go to the process of now appointing a technical committee. They did not halt it. To withdraw and to, a bill from the floor is simply to say, let me go and consider it, I'll bring it back. So we still are dealing with Bill 7. So what the technical committee on the Constitution is doing, nobody who understands constitutional law can tell you with justification that that appointment was okay. But see, this is what happens when you are fixated on your target. For you, the means do not justify the end. You already are the end. So even Laura Miti said it. She said, look, I'm shocked when she saw the terms of reference or technical committee saying this is just an exercise to sanitize the condemned Bill 7. So there's actually no distinction between what we're going to see coming out of the technical committee and what is contained in Bill 7. Because even the terms of reference, the way they were rolled out, again, it was controversy. The commissioners were appointed, and then 2 days after, they were sworn in. So they were actually sworn in without even knowing what their job was going to be. Because the terms of reference were then rolled out after they had been sworn in. So they were captured by and that itself is an unconstitutional process, because you have to, I can't employ you as general manager for Power FM without giving you a job description. Of course. Even the time I'm interviewing you, I must be telling you, we expect you to come and do this. Can you tell us where your competencies are? So that we know, even when I'm going to be appointed as a commissioner myself, I need to know what are my terms of reference. Or, in a better way, they allow us to frame up our terms of reference, because we know what Zambians want. And the Constitution is about Zambians, not about the executive. But see, the whole of this process is just designed to ensure that that target which they set for themselves of ensuring that we amend the Constitution in a manner that's suggested in Bill 7 is actually achieved. So even the means they're putting in place, it is all designed to make sure that this is what they have achieved. Now, this is why we call on Zambians to judge people that you put in power. These individuals have demonstrated to you clearly that they don't value you. And the UPND, it is not only on Bill 7 where they're faltered. It's on several other issues of governance where they've faltered. And also it is on several promises that they had made themselves of what is going to happen. Even small promises like, you vote me in the morning, 14 hours, there'll be this, or there'll be no load shedding, fuel will be cheap. All those promises, they have faltered on them. And what are the citizens doing Okay, you have a chance to go and register now as a voter, to go and make sure that you decide what to do with your vote on the 13th of August 2026, because these people have demonstrated their lack of capacity to manage the nation.
Yeah. Let's talk about the opposition. Having said everything you've said, Honorable, next year's election, the voter registration actually comes to an end today.
Yes.
I would like you to make comment on how you feel the length of the process has been. Was it adequate for new voters, or even for renewals or change of polling stations?
Yes.
But I would want to also focus on the opposition, specifically the Patriotic Front. I know for the time being, we have not been hearing of Tonsi Alliance, because I think every member of Tonsi Alliance has gone back to sort out their internal issues. What would you say is the current state of the PF? Especially that, a week, 2 weeks ago, leading into this weekend, into this week, we've had, Honorable Given Lubinda beaten up in Kabwe.
Yes.
Next 2 days is now expelling or demoting fellow members of Central Committee.
Yes.
What's your take on that, and where are we now with the Patriotic Front? I ask this because, on the other hand, the people want to have confidence in the opposition.
That's right.
And right now, it doesn't seem like there's a real opposition.
This is actually where we are here partly to try and ensure that we explain these issues to not only to our members, but also to our Zambians. Because, like I said, PF is beyond membership. PF is a much bigger organization. In fact, somebody was trying to classify PF as the biggest opposition political party. I differed with him. I said it's not the biggest opposition political party. PF is the biggest political party in the nation. It's much bigger than even the UPND, and that's why when it goes through the kinds of problems we're going through, people just have genuinely concerned with what is going on, and they would like to see a resolution of all these problems in the shortest time possible. But very briefly, just to talk about the voter registration. This issue has been as controversial and as challenging as anybody can think about it. When they started this process, we had noticed that there were some lapses in rolling out this program. We actually went to ECZ, if you remember, we were in the media, where we engaged ECZ, and we were shocked that the deployment plan had not even been distributed. People didn't know which polling stations people were going to be at to start renewing and registering. We engaged the CEO, and we demanded that we be given the deployment plan. And he also said, okay, there are some teething problems in starting this process, and begged for us to give them 4 or 5 days. Everything was going to roll out proper. Now, if you notice, there was a short period that was set for voter registration. At that time, we even started saying you must consider extending this voter registration. In response to what he did to us, we then, a number of us went to our constituencies. I went to Lukasha constituency myself. I arrived in Lukasha on the 5th day of voter registration. I went to polling stations. There was nothing going on. I went to the National Registration Office. There were no NRSs being issued. When we were told that there was going to be a dual process taking place. If you are 18 years and you're going to be a voter, you get NRC, then you get a voter registration, a voter's card rather. That was not taking place. We started making noise, we started pleading with them, can you please make sure this is done? Later we also discovered that even the machines that have been used to do this voter registration, they arrived I think 4 or 5 days before the exercise started, when they ought to have been here earlier. The story which we didn't verify was that the ones that we had were lent to our colleagues in Malawi to exercise their election. I don't know how true that story is, but if that story was true, then we got this on the wrong start. We ought to have made sure that these machines were calibrated, were tested, and the operators were taught how to operate them in good time before they were deployed. Because in Lukasha, you would hear the machine is here, but people don't know how to utilize it.
Use it,
and people are waiting. And see, our citizens don't depend entirely on government. Our citizens are small-scale farmers. You call them peasants, I don't call them peasants. They really depend on themselves. And the initiative they use on the onset of erosions, some of them go and harvest caterpillars. It's a business, it's a lucrative business. So we pleaded with them. I went on radio and said to them, please, ndemi papata mwanamala, ikale niko manda, tupeni kwa 7 days muya kufishimu. Mumaking sure kubati yemu tamlaya, na msaverify na voters card yenu nangu, mwewa pia, na muya lembesha. So by the time you are leaving to go in this place, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, at least they'll have registered their voters. So even the timing itself was wrong. But can you imagine, even after pleading with them to stay, still things are not functioning properly? And that's why you notice after 1 month when they said, okay, we've done, they only captured less than 10% countrywide. Okay, of course, in Southern Province and elsewhere, things seem to have been working properly. I don't know what magic was utilized, but even the senior chief Mwamba, went around One time I went with him, the next time he went around on his own, he dated the press and said, look, try and do something credible. There's nothing that is going on here. So this process has been mad with controversy. It has not worked, which is why at the end of this last week, they already captured about 29% of the targeted number. So we made a plea again, and I can even repeat it here, that they should consider extending this voter registration somewhere to 31st December or even 31st January, so that people can actually be captured in the numbers that were expected, because this is the right under the Constitution for citizens to pick the candidates or the people that want to lead them as president, member of parliament, mayor, councillor, etc., etc. Talking about the Patriotic Front, I always remind the public to distinguish the kind of problems that the PF has had. In fact, up to recently, what we had was a problem that was externally, instigated on the party. You see, from 2023, when the UPND took an interest in what was going on in the Patriotic Front, they have done everything to scuttle this political party in terms of leadership. Right now they are running around with their, with their stooge, Robert Chavinga, who is claiming he's got papers, he's the president of the party, Mao Sampa was a problem at the beginning. We went to court. Our courts were not responsive to what we were expecting. We had filed about 7 cases in court dealing with the same dispute. Under counsel of the leadership in the judiciary, we reduced those cases to 3. And even on those cases, unfortunately, we never got any sense of justice from what was going on. And we felt, look, okay, these are courts can't help us. We're not small people. We can reason together. We can sit as brothers and sisters of the same house. We called Miles' camp and told him, Honorable Sampa, let's sit down. And he was responsive. Of course, there had to be other people that were involved, even outside the party, and I want to give thanks to other politicians. I cannot mention them here because I didn't get their permission. But these were politicians who were in power, who worked with the UNIP government, who worked with the MMD government, and the old ones who were in Patriotic Front but have since retired from active politics. They came on board and said, look, we need to resolve this problem. You guys in PF need to remain intact because that's the only way we can provide credible checks and balances. Those matters were very easily resolved. We took only about a month to sit with Miles, to sit with everybody. If you remember, shortly after we resolved these matters, Miles even went to President Edgar Lungu, he was still alive at that time, and went and apologized and said, look, I'm sorry for what had happened. I would like us to start again. I know the party has come back into your hands. Can we go to... This was going on. That's when the UPND instigated this young man, Chavinga. Okay, and somehow they made him president without following the law, without following due process. And then they've given him this kind of protection. Me, I grew up in the neighborhood of savages. The only way a small boy can go about threatening big people is because he knows who's standing behind him. Chavinga is not speaking from without. Whenever Chavinga is dating the press, in his mind, he's looking behind and saying, who's standing behind me? And I've argued myself, I said, it's the president who's standing behind Chavinga. Because in Kasama, he made it very clear that Chavinga was his project. So even now, Chavinga continues to feel very, very protected because he thinks he can threaten all of us because the president is there. Because the alternative that we have is to send thugs to go and harass Chavinga. But you know what is going to happen? All those people are going to be arrested. The alternative we have is even for us as MPs who are very angry to say we are going to sort out Chavinga. But you know what is going to happen? All of us are going to lose our seats. So we remain on the pedestal of reasonableness. We've said, okay, let's try and find a reasonable way of resolving this matter. And you notice we moved with skyrocketing speed. In the last 2 weeks, we were actually going to have a conference this Saturday. Okay? And then Chavinga discovered if these guys have a conference and they place new leadership in power, I am totally irrelevant. What did he do? With the connections that he had, he showed up with an injunction. From where? From Cabo. He couldn't go to the High Court in Lusaka because the courts that are in Lusaka are beginning to feel like we need to find a solution to this problem. So they were not going to entertain a new application. And of course, he needed to find, and for lack of a better term, he needed to find a judge for hire. Okay, and I accuse this judge because Chavinga, shortly after he got an injunction, he dated the press. You heard how callous the young man was when he was speaking about the powers that he has. How he can command things. And he said, I am the one who went to Kabwe. I wanted to go and make sure that this judge gives me this injunction. I was in Kabwe. I came to there and this injunction was given to me. I was in a committee at Parliament when somebody sent me a clip. So I went out of the committee and started listening to the clip. I said, so how would Chavinga have gone to Kabwe to go and do? In what capacity? Because the matter in the High Court, which he had wanted to join, the court had said he has not demonstrated any local standard. He can't join the proceedings. So how did he get this? So I went out. When I saw the order that Chavinga was flaunting rather and screaming that I've got an injunction, he is not even party to the action. The person who was granted that injunction is a chap called Ngosa. Okay, now you can know that Ngona is basically somebody who's being pushed by Chavinga. Now, if I was a judge and I heard that a non-litigant who didn't appear before me is dating the press and the public and screaming on top of his voice that I'm the one who went, I made sure this judge gave me this injunction, I would actually cite that person for contempt of court, because he is projecting a viewpoint which is not correct, because the party before me is Ngona. But now, you see the jigsaw, that these are all pieces of a jigsaw coming together. That you see, Chavinga can't be party because he knows that there's a judgment here that says he's no longer, he can't demonstrate. But then he hires somebody who has some indication of locus and makes him a party. But he goes out bragging that I'm the one. I've even instructed the police to make sure that they close that secretariat. And 2 days after, the police were there closing secretariat. Look, we have so reduced leadership in this nation. We have so reduced politics in this nation that it has turned into nothing else but neighborhood gangsterism. You see, this is all happening because the police are afraid to do what is. There's never been a time in this country, I've practiced law for a long time, when the police come to enforce an injunction. Never. Even that injunction itself does not say that I hereby command the police to go and close. It doesn't say that. The judicial system has the sheriff who enforces court orders in civil matters, and an injunction is a civil relief. If Chavinga indeed wanted, or if Ngona indeed wanted that thing enforced, he would have had the sheriff come to lock up those premises and go back. But Chavinga exclaimed that we are now commanding the police to go and lock up the secretary, and the police came. So the rule of law itself has been walked on its head by a system, that pits, privileged elites in politics against the law.
So where is the PF now, having said all that, and knowing that even after Honorable Lewinda came up, a few days later, I think there was, there was a meeting that was held with your elder.
Absolutely.
And it was agreed that you will reconcile. So where are we now with the PF?
What I explained was the facet that should cause the nation concern about the future of politics in the nation. That a party in power can so bankroll, a stooge that it is leading to near collapse. And in bankrolling the stooge, you even hire government institutions, the judiciary, the ECZ itself, the police, to basically ensure that your interests are protected. When you come to the internal strife, I have argued that, you see, the Patriotic Front is the most attractive political party right now. Everybody wants to be part of a political party called Patriotic Front. And by extension, everybody wants to lead the Patriotic Front. Okay? So this is how this internal strife came by. We've been preparing to go for the conference naturally. Okay? And a few information went around. I try to be careful when speaking about this because we are yet to resolve this problem. And I don't want to preempt what is going to happen, because I would like that since we handed this matter to the elders, we give them the opportunity to guide us in finding a solution to this matter. But I will let out information that I think is important for people to know, okay, on how those decisions were made and how they can come by. We had scheduled a meeting that ought to have prepared us for the conference. Okay, so certain information became available to the acting president, given Lubinda, and he felt that to preserve the party, he needs to make a decision like the one that he made. Okay, and when that decision was made, everybody in the party was taken aback, because first it was made at night. Okay, and secondly, it was not made without consultation. Now, our constitution does allow the president to make certain decisions without consultation, but people have argued that the nature of a decision that he made, he could not have made it without consultation, or if he made it, it should not take effect before it is ratified by Central Committee. And that's the center of where the dispute is, okay? In my capacity as the chairman for Legal and Constitutional Affairs, after I received so much pressure from senior members of the party, even those who have retired, and the people that have been working with us for the past 3.5 years to try and keep the Patriotic Front intact, they called me and said, Mr. Sanga, you are the center of all this thing. Please help this party to be preserved. We don't think that you should degenerate at the time when you needed to build yourselves up. And I said, look, the right thing for me to do is not to go to the public and make noise and say, what I've done. No, I authored an opinion and sent it to the president and said, Acting President, please consider this. I think that the decisions you've made, can be looked at in the light of what is provided from the Constitution. And I've allowed doubt that the decision to, whatever decision he's going to make, will be informed by the opinion I gave him. Fortunately for me, it's about the same time that the elders became gravely concerned with this matter and called in everybody. These issues, including the issues that I referred to him in an opinion, have been canvassed, have been spoken to by the Council of Elders. The President has been, asked to make a decision, to consider the issues that have been brought to the fore and make a decision. So we're sitting at a place where we're expecting the President to make a decision. One of the other things that actually happened is that the candidates who are standing also seized an opportunity now to recommend that they will come and ask Central Committee to consider deferring the conference. So, just for the public and for the members to know, the conference has not been deferred. The decision that came from the interactions between the contenders, the leadership and the Council of Elders is that the contenders will have to ask Central Committee, because mind you, Central Committee had set that date. So, for them to be prevailed upon to defer, there must be representation from the candidates, and the candidates resolve they're going to make a representation. So, we're waiting for the date that the President is going to convene that meeting, which will consider a possible deferment after hearing from what the contenders are saying.
Interesting. Honorable, let me give chance to the callers or to listeners and viewers. I've handed you a pen and paper because I thought you might need that. So we'll take 3 calls at a time.
I'll use my tablet, yes.
Okay, great. We'll take 3 calls at a time, and the phone is already ringing. But let me just say out the number. For Airtel, it's 0979-192-485. For Zamtel, it's 0955-997-997. So please call us. We've got Honorable Member for Lukasha, Mr. George Chisanga, who is also former LAS President, with us.
I can help with that.
Yes, you can put on. Hello, good morning. Okay. We lost that caller. So, we've got Honorable Member for Lukasha, Mr. George Chisanga, with us on the Political Podcast. We've got a caller. Good morning.
Morning, Chomba.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good, and how are you? You are speaking with Chirando, calling you within Lusaka.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead quickly so that we give chance to other callers. And
Honorable, how are you, my honorable?
Morning, Chirando. Good morning, sir.
Lusaka constituency, village.
I know this voice.
Yes. Oh, good.
Yes,
good. Honorable, in more ways than one, I think personally I would suggest to say, in this country, what we need is a hybrid system of governance. Why have I said this? The one calling is Chirando. I'm somebody who is blind in conservative English. Now we call it visually impaired.
Yes, sir.
The thing is that we feel that some of the sections of the groups like us, the demographics who belong to people who are marginalized, we are left behind. Mind you, we had a process concerning Bill 7, is a so much talked Bill 7. But the terms of reference, our kind of writing and reading is Braille. They are yet to be published. They haven't been published in Braille. Yes. So now, how do you govern when it's some section of the society is left behind? Even the discussion over Bill 10 is just centered around the church and the politician. You are in the lead. But with the much concerned people, we are not even carried on board. Honorable, I think I would offer constructive criticism to you.
Yes, sir.
Our members of parliament, you have failed us in more ways than one. Yes. Mostly you waste time on politicking other than engaging the masses. So I think, Honorable, on that, even what you have alluded to concerning the press briefing for yesterday, you can see to say it's because people want to protest. It's because the larger majority, the broader majority of the masses feel that they were left behind. And whenever people, they feel that sense of disillusionment, then the end results are like this. So, on that, Honorable, I understand, but even consider persons with disabilities, because we are also voters. We even vote, and you need our vote in more ways than one. Otherwise, you are well articulate, and we are still together, my Honorable.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much, Wachlando. All right, we have another caller. Good morning.
Yes, my brother, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Please tell us where you're calling us from and your name.
Too much is a perfect to secure
Who's a killer vacacious? Please go ahead.
Akesha's Mwape Mwape kuza kile.
Kusa kile honorable tulimu chushi ngetumwa ishiwa Zambia tuwapate ifi ya
Mkwae.
Kanshi kuna na malaiki honorable ya mwana ushiku. Ndio shi ya benefit ile tuwena Kristo ya tuwehuka amalaiki haya. Ndio shimi atishio mkuru wa mashashi ya malaiki kwa chimo ya kulinoti Kanshi kuwe chula sana. Honorable osa ndeka zinga sana because inatukwata hopu PF kwa PF yanga pusha atimu yanga cheki ya mahama akipalena Zambia. Tuweka zinga kuufana. Kwa chabinga na wagile inuhinga atimu na wamao sampao. Kwa wati because honorable kwa shupa kukata kwa wati because tuweka wa PF. Mkezina chani vififo ngusili PF. Kwa kutikana. Kwa mwala ama kansela wake nina pesa aleka liwatumwa na wanje mimi ne kansela ta PF kwamba hapo nina pesa na mjalai pesa ni mobilize each pancha PF papa funga so itenya ma kuchechi itensha info shiko shikali kwa tabinga panchi tena wa tabinga ndalama kwa papa ta Zambia ipapulilo hiyo ile mumone ama abduction Zambia mumone ile lokadalizi moto ili one side ya nini mama alangire ko ati kadarizi miyamba na mukakwa babona then ba president twali batema waka ibitimba vera na kwa isi tribe yo nisi wote muleka na pepe nisi ndinda na mutonga nisi yapata badi ya kutonga yetu kwa Zambia ile kilindi noti fulani teka we tell me to get a papa maka ini twali batemwa kwa mtu alipata potele kwamba amashu ya moya landa da sekesha afura watapotela tote.
Thank you, Akesha.
Okay, we have another caller. We'll take one last call and then allow for the honorable member to make a comment. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Dimukito Washmalani.
Washmalani from Kyoto. Please go ahead quickly to Pelokoba honorable time to respond.
Honorable.
Mwape Washmalani.
Honorable, the family plan milongo butaka.
Na totala mko.
Milongo shufini. Na mumone chipani cha PF bali kitemwa abantu sana. Nechali ngero kwa wafunyapo kwa PF. Mulandu wa makata.
Mkwae.
Chindi yuko chiza yuko yuko mkutena kwa kazi yetu ndio kisha. Nechali ngero abantu bemwe ile yakuvota UPN. So ile leo abantu batali alive. Ile abantu kwa bati UPN ngale kusi na tuweke kwa chipani cha PF. So kile mwana mwenzi wale bonkia Ntungu kitango yo batalinga bena boko bati uyu mwaka oleita mwaka wa kuvota ele bafire kwa muntu batalinga kabisa na kwa kubebo kwa bati nshira wingira mu nshira ya shupa baona le boyka tani bati abantu bali mitemo abantu bale mirira
all right
singa mamo na document mitemo mu mtike mu ripango kwale kanadekana amasuzi so ndibendele mu salem para mpana tutira
sana
okay thank you
sana mkwae Washimana.
All right. Yeah, so maybe you can just comment, not too many questions, but just commentary on,
yes.
on what we're discussing today.
Yes. Actually, I take my hat off to Fachilando. The observation is made is very, very clear. Yeah. Most of the times when we are under the kind of pressure that we are under, we seem to forget people that actually need us to be all-inclusive. Yeah. Not only the visually impaired, but also the differently abled people. We seem not to be moving with them. Yeah. It is all intended to ensure that when you have a program of such a nature, everybody must be given an opportunity to be on the table and participate in the changes that are going to come. Yeah. I can only apologize to Vachilando, even if I'm not in government. I think that was a very big slip up for us to leave people that are living with, visually impaired people. It's true. We should have this Bill 7, translated into Braille. Just like we should have had it translated into local languages, which is why people are saying the job that is being done is all earmarked to make sure that the UPND retains itself to power. Because what kind of stakeholder consultation are we going to talk about if you don't even have it in local language, let alone in Braille? So my take, Vachilando, just continue. I know Mr. Chando is a civic leader, and I know he's a very passionate leader about disability matters. That's why, I remember him from Lukash. I interacted with him before. Yeah. But just continue with this passion, sir. Orders are not Sundays. Things are going to improve as we go forward. Yeah. I think Akesha from Muzakile has made a very passionate appeal, which we've been making, just to tell Akesha that even when we're having this kind of problems, we are engaging. We are engaging with everybody. We are engaging even with Mr. Chabinga himself, on that we can't divulge information because we don't want them to disrupt what we are doing. And also, if the enemies know that you're talking to each other, it becomes very, very difficult for you to actually resolve the matter. But just rest assured that we try, even as we have this determination of wanting to make sure that the Patriotic Front is going to be in the ballot paper next year. Look at what you have. You have a son who has shown potential to become, a councillor. Under the Constitution, he must choose a political party on which he wants to vie. And people must vote for him because they know that that's a party that can actually take him to council. Now, if we have the kind of problems that we're having without resolving them, how are we going to create credible leadership in this nation? What has been missing for a long time, Chomba, is credible leadership, and it only comes when people use credible means of getting themselves into power. I can only re-emphasize what Chomba, what Kesha has said about the tribal talk. The president must unify the nation. It is his responsibility to make sure that everybody feels safe with his presidency. When he makes statements, he must measure them to make sure that he speaks to and about everybody in the nation. But Shimalan, also, it's very, very true. Unity is the only thing that is going to return us. Shimalan has made a very critical observation. You see, why people have remained glued to the Patriotic Front, apart from what I said, saying this party, was Michael Sata's idea, but it grew beyond the idea, is also the kind of visible work that Patriotic Front did. There is no political party, Chomba, in this country that can compare to what PF did in 10 years. None. And we're not bragging. And of course, we know that we did it at a cost to the nation because we borrowed most of that money. But what we borrowed and utilized is very visible. You just need to go anywhere in the country, you're going to see a project, not a small one, a big one for the Patriotic Front. Our friends have borrowed more money than we borrowed in 5 years. Okay, these are people who came and say, I'd promised you, they're not going to borrow anything. They have borrowed for consumption. Now, there's something that I can say which is very critical for somebody to observe. The UPND has borrowed money. You have not seen where it has gone. The only thing that is very visible in how this money has been utilized is in the FIC reports. If you have seen, the trends report by the Financial Intelligence Center has shown clearly that colossal amounts of money are moving out of this country illicitly, and you can't see. And then also, the FIC reports have indicated that people who are politically connected are the ones who are moving money out of this country. Unfortunately, even with those kinds of disclosures, this government has not taken deliberate steps to make the Zambians know who is stealing. They haven't taken deliberate steps to let the Anti-Corruption Commission and the Anti-Monitoring Unit in DEC investigate openly who has been stealing. I know the trends report will tell you exactly who the thieves are, okay? But we've been worried as a Patriotic Front because the fight against corruption in Zambia collapsed when the UPND took power. How did it collapse? They passed what is called Gazette Notice number 1123 of 2021, which brought all these investigative wings, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the DEC, the public defender, and even the police, of course, have been under the public, but all of them came under the office of a president. We said in Parliament, this is compromising the fight against corruption. And we have demonstrated it now, it has been demonstrated in practice. Commissioners at the Anti-Corruption Commission had to leave because they were stifled, they couldn't function. Okay, the DG and the Anti-Corruption Commission had to be let off because there's just no independence in investigating these cases. Why? Because the political elites are trying to make sure that they are not exposed for the corruption that they're involved in. But see, the trends report are a clear indicator of where the money, most of the money that is being borrowed by the UPND is actually going. Because if you can see it in the economy, you must find some place where it is gone. And the only visible place you can see it is the FIC report. So this is why people love the UPA, the Patriotic Front now. They've realized that we were duped. Okay, that there was deception about these guys coming into power. And when they came into power, they've been exposed for who they are. And the only way you can try and recalibrate this country is to give an opportunity to those who managed you properly, those who were very visible with what they were doing to you, those who cared for you as citizens. Give them the second opportunity. These are politics. You need to choose who you want to run the affairs of a nation for the 5-year mandate that we give.
Right. We have another caller. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, we've lost that caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Tubulu, calling from Kitwe.
Mr. Tululu? Tubulu from Kitwe. Please go ahead quickly.
Yeah. Chakubalirapo, chakwebati. By UPNG, what is going on? Oh, it's over there, they are leading to bring anarchy in this country. Ekintu kyonse takitampa ekikulu kitampa panono kira kyepya ng'omuliro. Ilo bakwete bamayo ababa Laura Miti. PF yali mukibe kibi sana, but ba PF tabale complain wati bamayo Laura Miti bale chita. So bale tamuasis forum no. 2. Our MP bali ponomba ba UPND. They must appreciate time Yawama Kibini. He was tolerating a lot of things so some parliament or UPND. Today, PF MPs or opposition, they ama isusele alondoloka mu parliament. But Mr. Makibini was tolerating a lot of things. I hear and I repeat. There was a time one MP mu UPND provoked Mr. Gambwiri mu premises ya parliament. What did he do? He was only given 7 days of parliament. That's all. Mm-hmm. Because Mr. Matibini was a parent who was trying to bring all sides together. Mm-hmm. But today, MP opposition, there is no time for dialogue. Parliament, only dialogue for opposition. 3, PF, we're sharing my bedroom in Ayose. Renting kuri ba UPND pokeni ama kimubwesha ma bedroom yendose, especially tampena wapura mupoke. 4, ifo na landani ba UPND bale blame ba PF kwebati, they go to places where there are by-elections before the elections start. Stay here, top officials, especially Pambashe Kwisokwa Shala, they leave their places, they go and visit the chiefs. Kumfumu kulingana tradition ule tandalile mfumu kwa kumfumu ufena usenda pona ngwaka koko wayashire mfumu bena fishi watwala kumfufa mkuwata kwa mwene mfumu iliyose takwa by election iliyokwa by election kwa mtandalile mfumu ba pia floration kwecho tindi kuli ama debate yalela nda paradio ifo baka inje bachire mu 4 years yo te indirect campaign yo bale wonke machinery ya government. 4, kulisoma moto kesi wa branded isi ya UPND brandi nikala fila pitana nisa Afrika kila wakapokola pantu announcement ya election taila Tampa wa PF. Check on those things.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that call. So please, we have another caller. Let's pick up this call. Allow Honorable to respond. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Oshe. I'm calling you from Kawe.
Mr. Name again? Mr. who?
Oshe.
Mr. Oshe from Kawe. Please go ahead.
Sure. Good morning, Honorable.
Morning, Oshe.
Yes, Oshe.
Yes, Oshe. Yes.
Please go ahead.
Sure. My concern, Honorable, is the rising numbers of political violence, or I would say Kadaism, being perpetrated by the UPND cadres on the PF, supporters. Recently, we saw given Winda being brutalized. We saw our secretariat being, smashed, damaged, properties that damaged, beaten up. So, my question to you, Honorable, is being the counsel for the Patriotic Front, what are you advising us? Are we going to sit idle just like that and watch these people of UPND? But too much every day. Just because we have a ruling party at PF, and then if it's like don't we have the right, Honorable, to protect ourselves from these violent UPND cadres?
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We'll take one last call and then we give a chance to Honorable to respond.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Yes. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Elvis, calling within Lusaka.
All right, Mr. Elvis, please go ahead quickly.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning, Mr. Elvis.
Thank you very much. For me, Council.
Yes, sir.
I think you have inflicted these problems on yourselves. I was a PF myself, staunch PF. I think you know me.
Yes, I know Elvis.
Yeah, but I was very disappointed to find that when the acting president was given the mantle to organize the party, That's where we lost it. A lot of candidates filed in their nominations, paid my 200, and yet you didn't go to choose a leader till Mao Sampa hijacked the party, and you have received Mao Sampa with both hands. The person who brought these problems in the PF. If there was no that illegal convention by Mao Sampa, this time the PF would have been somewhere else. Maybe you would have even chosen a leader. These problems emanated from the illegal conference where Mao Sampa was chosen as a leader. After Mao Sampa fell out of favor of the people who were supporting him, Mr. Chavinga took over the party. These are the problems which the Patriotic Front inflicted themselves on.
Yeah.
For me, Mr. Sampa, who has been received with both hands and now have been appointed by Mr. Given Rubinda. This person, I think he has betrayed the party for a long time. Long time you have been tolerating him. He went, joined with the UPND. He came back, cried, you gave him the mayor, went, formed his own party, came back, you received him, destroyed the party again, and you have received him. Even now is a darling of the PF. What kind of people are you?
Yeah.
So
right.
For me, when you are crying there, let me finish, Mr. Moderator. You gave me that person from Kawe very long time, 3 minutes. I was counting the minutes, yes?
By office, we're hearing you, sir. We're hearing you.
Go ahead. Right.
Yes. So, for me, when you come here to cry with those crocodile tears, I don't believe you.
Yes.
Because you can't blame anyone. Why have you received Mao Sampa in the first place?
Yeah.
Why are you embracing him? The person who has injured you. Ichironde ekyo mukwete ba Chisanga. Bamukoshi. Kifumine kuli ba Mao Sampa. Ekyo bakyabinga bayingiriramo. Imwe ba PF, yine nali PF wakama mona menshi. Na lelanda pali kadalizi mukirabushiku. I was threatened pano njikara by the same PF cadres. When I was talking, I even called very senior members in the party. By then, very senior, and they were telling me those are just criminals, those are not PF.
Yeah,
and I told them that today you want to cry about Sanga. What kind of leaders are you? So, first to any chironde ekyo kiri mupate mumienu ero mwambe okubulema abantu kozi ekyo chirondo wakireta ali umwe mwine ewa michena n'okumichena mule mfa bakisanga defaya munje bekyo mwamupokerera ulya n'okumusunga mu kipani waona ule ekipani ewa leta Yosefi defaya munje.
All right.
Thank you
very much, Mr. Elvis. And unfortunately, because of time, Mr. Elvis will be our last caller. But please just respond to him and then we can wind up.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I think Tuburu has basically pointed out the issues that I've already spoken about. That when you are leading and you don't seem to create an environment where everybody has space, it just it's a recipe for anarchy. Yeah. And he pointed out the fact that under PF people were critical, but PF never reacted. I entirely agree with him. The issue about Parliament also, we've complained so many times about the collapse of decorum in that house and the treatment of opposition political parties. These are issues, and I'm glad that people are watching. Yeah. Okay, but Zambians should never lose hope. You know, a destroyed system does not last. You know, a bad system has a very short lifespan. So I'm hopeful that as we get to the next election, people will wake up early in the morning to go and make sure that what we're going through right now, we don't continue going through those things. Yeah. Of course, it is made a plea on us to go and get back our strongholds. That's a political tactic that we can't speak about in public, but we're working behind the curtains to make sure it is done. Yeah. On the branded motor vehicles, I think he has pointed out an issue that we may need to address as a patriotic front. Maybe we need to bring it to the attention of the authorities, you know, because this is not campaign time, and I'm very sure if I've got branded vehicles myself, then Kasama, they are packed waiting for the elections. In fact, I'm going to remove the old brands, put the new ones when it comes to campaigning. Colleagues have gone already into the campaign mode. Look, with the moment UPND got into power, they didn't start doing anything that is going to improve the lives of Zambian people. No, they started working on the mechanisms that are going to make them win the election 2026. Unfortunately, those mechanisms seems not to have worked. So now they want to start showing, you know, this display. of authority by branding their vehicles.
Yeah.
There's nowhere where you're going to go, Chomba, where you won't find a big billboard with a president on it, making one statement or another. So for our colleagues, they're already in the campaign mode, but maybe we need to bring these issues to the attention of those who got a statutory mandate to manage the affairs of the nation. I think Mr. O'Shea from Kawe has raised issues, and he's asked me a question which is a very difficult question for the lawyer to answer. I'm a lawyer and I'm a creature of the rule of law, and I want to make sure that whenever I'm speaking to people, I remind them of the importance of us complying with the law. Whether or not
peace, the importance of peace as well.
Whether or not we're in government, whether or not we're outside the government, it creates that impression. I was saying when I was on the radio that one time I was almost lynched by the UPA, by the PF cadres, because I was secretariat, and they were voicing this very concerns. If it were chula san, you see, if we to protect, so Chisanga as the lawyer said, allow us just to get to meet in the streets. And I told them, but I can't tell you to do that. My responsibility here, and you see, for me, I have always argued, because I think my practice of law has structured me into this individual that always believes that there is nothing you cannot resolve if you properly apply the rule of law.
Of course.
I was telling some students at university one time, I said, look, I'm so passionate about the law that if reincarnation was a possibility, I would like to come back into this country and still be a lawyer, because I know what it has happened, and it's only profession that is recorded in the Bible that Jesus talked to a lawyer, when he told him about the principle of who my neighbor is. So lawyers are peacemakers according to what Jesus said. I would still want to insist that we can be peaceful as a nation.
Yeah.
We can speak to each other. I don't tolerate violence, not in any way. What happened to Honorable Given Luminda was terrible. What happens to when the UPND cadres were sent to come and beat our people and stone and break the secretariat? It was terrible. And it's the third time secretariat is being ransacked by the UPND cadres. When we lost power, that secretariat was taken over. We lost a lot of important material and information in secretariat, and nothing has happened. You see, the UPND has not even caused any people to be arrested for what happened when you lost power. Even this last incident that took place about 3 weeks ago when they came and broke that place up, nothing has happened. There's a young man who was even able to identify people that beat him because he knows them. He's their friend. Yeah. Nothing has happened now. When you have a legal system that operates at that level, it creates problems for the whole nation, not only for us. It creates problems for the whole nation. One time, I think with my age and all, I'm less radical than other politicians are. But one time when a young man, Honorable Chansa Mpundu was on I think on radio, he actually said, I think Zambians must now stand up and start defending themselves. Yeah. Because we had all but gotten fed up that we complain about being victimized, we complain about being violated, and government is not doing anything. So he made a statement that Zambia must begin to defend themselves. What has happened? He's been arrested. He's appearing in court right now. I defend him in court because he is alleged to have made an inflammatory remark. But how can people stop making those kinds of remarks if they can continue to see a continuous system where the rule of law is applied, not uniformly? It applied in favor of those who are in power. It applies against, especially those on the patriotic front. People have got a way of giving up. And a human being, a human being is a very sophisticated creature. Injustice in a human being just creates unreasonableness in the mind of a human being. That's why the rule of law is designed to make sure that we live in a just society. Yeah. When you don't mete out justice properly, the recipe is the resulting experiences will be chaotic because people will think we have to appropriate ourselves the right to defend ourselves. Yeah. Look, even now, those boys, Liswaniso and I think Matomola, they have issued threats against people who want to go and register their disagreement with Bill 7. They have threatened them. A threat alone is a crime. For threatening violence, you can actually go to jail. Nothing has happened. The police has not moved. They have even told the police, we don't want you to be anywhere because we want to go and sort out these people. So they are using power and privilege to do what they cannot do if they are not, patronizing the party which is in power. Yeah. But it is the responsibility of the president, it is the responsibility of a minister of Home Affairs and everybody else that it matters to make sure that we push the agenda for maintaining law and order. Okay, I think, Elvis, the only plea I can make with him, please come back to the mother party. I know and I share your pain about what we've made you go through because of our episodes with Mao Samba. But you see, leadership is just what it is. If you were in Patriotic Front, I will tell you an example that I behaved the way you behaved yourself. One time when I walked into State House, not even State House, we were not in power then, we were in opposition, but I went into Ombelo Mumba to go and see Vasata, and I found William Sanda there. And for me, the last incident I had seen between William Sanda and Vasata was when William Sanda was beating Vasata in Kitwe.
Yeah,
and I asked the old man, sir, mule tusevanya fweba na venu. Mwavaleta shani abakaramba, because William Sanda is actually my brother. He was related to me. I said, mwavaleta shani wamda. And he laughed. He says, nalewa nama nowe finole and shefa ili ashakwa William Sanda tuitwale kuntanshi. Leadership means you must embrace everybody. Even people that, even somebody who was, who was your enemy, you must bring them closer to you as a way of charting the way forward. But of course, you must bring him closer to you on conditions that may not have been made available to people like me. When Michael started to reconcile with William Sanda, he didn't have an obligation to come and tell me, but he could simply have told me, look, yes. I know that Elvis feels the way many Patriotic Front members are feeling. But see, we have now the one who has the responsibility of managing the affairs of PF is Given Lubin. Yeah. He may have had, a meeting with Miles where they seem to have agreed that, look, we can get together. And Miles has been brought back in the fold. I think what we need to do is just to embrace him, but also ensure that we work in such a way that this thing that happened does not repeat itself. Right. That is about leadership. So having said that, for me, I'll just make an honest plea. I know Elvis, I know how passionate he has been about what Michael Sata used to do for this nation. Yeah. I would like him to come and help us reincarnate, the dream that Michael Sata had to try and make this country a better country than what we're going through right now. Zambia is a very good country. What it just needs is a very good leadership that embraces everybody, and that marches us forward onto a development agenda. Fantastic.
Mr. Elvis, I think you read for yourself, and on that note, I would like to thank you, Honorable Member Mr. Chisanga, for coming through to the Political Podcast. I'm hoping you can come through again.
Chomba, I'm so grateful. This is home. I would definitely come through again. Even just to come and play music with Kenny Tonga.
Of course, I'll tell him that. No, thank you so much for coming through.
That's so grateful.
Yeah, all the best for the PF and also going forward into the elections. All the best for you at the constituency.
We need those wishes. We need those blessings.
All right.
We're going through a very challenging time, but there's no problem that God can never save. What God cannot do doesn't exist.
All right.
We'll find a solution to this as well.
Amen.
Thanks very much.
All right. Yeah, so that was the Political Podcast, this week's edition. My name is Yowela Chomba, your host. Let's wait for our next guest next week. Hopefully we can get Mr. Mao Sampa, because I think I would like him to come so that people like Elvis can ask him those questions directly. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and for those who called, thank you so much for coming through. For those that called but never got through, apologies, but I hope to have you again next week. My name is Yowela Chomba. Have a good day.